everyone. Welcome back to the Be That Create That channel. I'm so excited to be able to share more of these interviews with you as we go. I'm meeting people from all over and finding that leadership means different things to different people and at different times. But everybody, as we've talked about before, as part of this channel, everybody has the opportunity to create their own leadership lifestyle. So whether I have had some coaches on, I've had yoga instructors, I've had stay-at-home moms, I've had homeschool teachers. We've had a variety of women on that share different ways that they are taking what they love to do, adding some energy and passion to it, and really going out and making an impact in this world. And we need more of that, right? So I want to make sure that we take the time to celebrate those that have the courage to be visible and do that. So today's episode is no different. I'm bringing on Myriah Wallace. Going to go ahead and bring her from backstage so that she can take the time to introduce herself and share the passion of what she's doing these days as well. All right. Welcome, welcome.
All right. Morning, or I guess afternoon.
Right. The other thing I've noticed doing some of these interviews is I've had people even from like the UK. So when we are airing them, it's like, okay, is it morning for you? Is it afternoon? Is it lunchtime? At least for you and I, we're in a close time zone. So
yes, not too bad.
So why don't you just go ahead and share with us, Myriah, what is it that you do as a leadership and executive coach, and how did you get onto this path to be where you're at right now?
Okay, yeah. So actually, it sounds like you and I do very similar things. And, with a lot of your experience and background, it's a little intimidating because, from one leadership coach to another, you tend to do a lot of comparison. But I got here via a kind of weird a way. So I'm a licensed professional counselor by training and degree and everything. Then I found myself in leadership at a behavioral health center in a hospital. And I just took on more and more leadership. And before I knew it, I was overseeing 4 different departments. And as you know, with so many different locations and departments with different policies and procedures, it can get chaotic. So I found myself very stressed, and I knew kind of what I had in mind, and I felt what I was doing as a leader was, on the right track. And I started picking up on some of the things that maybe leadership above me could have implemented to support a better working environment. So kind of just learned, and I decided, hey, I want to help people like me that are in a leadership position who are trying to do it all. So I thought maybe I'll, work on counseling with these high-level executives, C-suite, but you have to diagnose somebody formally to work with them with mental health diagnosis to be, reimbursed by insurance. And that's where I thought, hey, these guys actually could benefit from coaching, more so than actual counseling, because we're going to do a lot of motivational interviewing, goals, reaching your goals and that sort of thing. So that's how I got where I'm at today. And one of my caveats I always try to tell people is I'm going to work on being very well behaved, because I tend to say things a little bit inappropriately due to the therapy background. You have to have kind of a sick sense of humor to get through some of that trauma, so but that kind of goes into my leadership and coaching style too. I try to do it real. I don't want to speak a lot of corporate jargon, so that's how I am where I am today.
I try to keep things, what I say is straightforward, no nonsense. Like, I'm going to tell you how it is with the most love and hypey cheerleader that you need. However, I also know that you need someone who is going to say, you told me you were going to do that and you didn't. So what got in your way?
That's exactly what people need.
It is. It is, especially right now when there's so many. I mean, I feel like this could be a show all on its own, but there's so many excuses out there right now that are allowing people to just tag right onto them and
Mm-hmm.
make it a reason for not getting things done, when really it's like, no, getting these things done are simple. There are simple tools and resources that we can give people to reach their goals, reach their targets. It's not
Mm-hmm.
easy, but it's simple.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think people are
And
looking for things to be easy. And that's just not where it's at if you want to get to the level like you and I have gotten to.
mhm. Yeah, yeah, I could not agree more. It just, I've seen that transition in the past maybe 5 years. If it's too hard, people are giving up more. And I
Mm.
don't know. One of my theories is that, once we got to this Zoom and um, culture where we're always on calls, there's like this false sense of optimism that we all have to put on, like, oh,
Mm.
everything's fine. Yeah, to agree with others. But it may not be okay behind the background and you're struggling, but you're just kind of, glazing over to fit in with the Zoom crowd.
Yeah, and I feel like there's a little bit of you're on the call, but you may be feeling distracted, and now that has become normal. So I feel like
Uh-huh.
there's a little bit of losing people's laser focus on what they're doing or the person that they are meant to be present with. I know, from your experience, do you feel like people being able to work from home, overarching, I suppose, were more
Hmm.
productive during that time frame, or has it turned into less productivity?
Well, I think initially it was more productive. I think a lot of people in my industry wanted to prove themselves. Hey, I can do this. It's not a problem. But
Mhm.
then the distractions of home started seeping in, as kids were there and we're trying to integrate that work life balance. And people are kind of waking up later, or they kind of throw off of a schedule, when you're working from home. It's not a regimented schedule. So I've seen kind of, hey, things were working really well initially, and now maybe not so much. And then you
Mhm.
take that connection, that workplace connection away. People are a little bit more disengaged from their coworkers, and
Mhm.
you don't have that relationship aspect. So that
Well,
plays a big
yeah,
role.
yeah, and I would also say, going into that, like the leadership, the culture is going to be the way that the leadership wants it to be. So when
Hmm.
you're working with someone, do you guys touch on culture, communication? How do you start with something like that?
Culture is everything to me. If you don't have a good foundation and a good culture, your company, they need to rethink their strategy. So
Mhm.
that's kind of one thing that I'm kind of delving into a little bit more, instead of just solely one on one,
Mhm.
doing a little bit of more of the company culture consulting.
Mhm.
And I get a lot of that. I don't know. Have you read Kim Scott's book on radical candor?
Oh, I haven't. I've heard of it, but I have not
Yeah.
read it.
It's fantastic. She basically wrote a book about everything I've thought, my whole life. And she
Yes.
reinforced, a lot of the way that I was thinking, and how companies need to change the way that they're acting, treating employees, and everything like that. And it's just phenomenal. So I've gained so much knowledge from her book.
Yeah, I'll have to take a look at that. So
Yeah.
what is one tool that you feel like you can give your one-on-one clients that seems to make that we need a little motivation to get some momentum behind our transformations. So what is something that you would be able to offer them, or you work with them, that you feel like really helps them go, I can do this. I can be a better leader, and you see a change in them.
Uh-huh. So I glean a little bit of motivational interviewing from the behavioral health world.
Mhm.
So we kind of use this 1 point, 10 point scale. I check in, where are they, on their goals, where are you from, today, what are you, if they rate themselves a 6 on how confident they feel that they are,
Mm.
achieving their goals as a leader. I'll probe into that a little bit more and say, a 6, what makes that a 6 today? Tell me about that. And then instead of just moving forward, I will ask a little bit, well, what's holding you back from moving from a 6 to a 7? And then we kind of delve in a little bit there. And then with that, we find some of the obstacles, in the middle, of what, and I say, well, if you could achieve that 7, what's, holding you back from that 8? And, usually by the time the session ends, we've got some motivating factors and we figured out a lot of the barriers. And that's kind of how I like to start things.
I love that because, a lot of times when people go into coaching or consulting, they go into the conversation feeling like you're going to tell me how to fix everyone else.
Yeah.
And the first thing that we need to do is bring that circle right back around and go, okay, so how are some of the behaviors and patterns that you're doing right now affecting these other things that are happening, and really starting in the center, right? So when we think about leadership, everyone has a different answer. So I'd love to hear yours of how would you either describe or define leadership for somebody if they just say, what is leadership? Because I know Google just tells me leadership is leading people. Okay, Google, that doesn't help. What really? So how would you describe it?
Well, I think that has changed over time for me. So probably I when I was younger, I had an idea of more of an, a democratic or, even, a hierarchical standard where, you've got the boss and the boss kind of has the overall say of what the employees need to do, how they need to act. But as I've delved into things and experimented, I'm kind of at this point now where I'm like, leadership is being there for your team. You've got to make sure they have their needs met, that they're on the right track, and then you can take care of you, do your job. But if everything's going good for them, you're there for them, your leadership should be a little bit more smooth moving forward.
Yeah, I think that's servant leadership really is when I think about my team to get the best from them for our company, for our opportunity, for our whatever. How do I make sure that they're in the best place possible? Because we're not at a point right now with these teams that we can force them. It's more of like, how do I encourage them, influence them, get them excited about what we're doing in order to make the company or team or organization be better. It's just such an interesting difference in the way leadership is now than what it was maybe when our parents were working full-time careers.
Yeah. One of my former directors, he grew up, where everybody was loyal to one company. You worked really hard, And so when he came to the mental health world, he was like, what is a mental health day? Or why do you need time off? He was just like, what is this stress and trauma you guys speak of? And, but after working with him for 7 years, he came around and his leadership transformed and he had a great impact on me. He taught me a lot of old business, productivity, Six Sigma, lean, but he transformed and it was just amazing to see that he actually started really transforming the culture, caring about the team. And I owe him quite a bit of credit to being the person I am today.
Isn't that interesting? When you speak of mentors, so when I was 16, my mentor was our general manager for a restaurant. And I remember him telling me his job was to create atmosphere. His job was to develop other leaders. And his job was to create an atmosphere where people love to come to eat and people love to come to work. And it was amazing. And when you think about that was 1995. That was a very
that's kind of unheard of.
Yeah. And he was in his 20s at the time. So also like they're a very, young into leadership, but it was so profound that to think about that. And what's interesting is now he's the owner of the restaurant that I'm an operating partner for. And that same restaurant is the one that I started at when I was 16 and he was the general manager. So, Yeah, he's really been a mentor for me kind of full circle. But I do remember him saying, my job is to create atmosphere, one where people love to come to eat and people love to come to work. And I really think that if our leaders look at their organizations, their teams, their businesses in that way, they're going to see so many more people flourish, including the company.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. If you serve your people, you treat your people right, they want to do a better job for you. And then you have profits, they treat your clients, they treat your customers, your patients so much better when they're happy to be there. If we just start ground up servant leadership, it's a culture
Mhm.
change. And I'm surprised he started that in 1995. That's absolutely
1995.
unheard of.
So, share with us maybe, obviously, as an executive coach and being in the health field, I'm sure that you probably had yourself some, I don't want to say strict, but non-negotiable things that you do that make you feel successful. Maybe it's an every day, maybe it's an every week, every month, whatever. But what's something that you would say that you do kind of religiously or continuously that you feel like makes you feel successful?
Well, when I was in leadership, I think checking in on my people, we would have team meetings. And then I noticed that those one on one meetings, establishing that every 1 or 2 weeks was invaluable to my team. It took up a lot of time, it really did, to try to meet with every single person. And sometimes you have to push that out. But when you do that, check in on them once every 2 weeks, for 30 minutes, that is something that transformed my team, my culture. They felt like
Mhm.
I invested in them, I trusted them, and they were able to work a little bit better knowing that I had their back. And if I got busy and I started canceling meetings or, kind of brushing things off when I got stressed, things just kind of went haywire, like, hey, I don't feel like you're there for me. Are you okay? So that's
Mhm.
one thing I learned, is having your one-on-one meetings with your employees are key. If you can't do that, find a way to do a small group meeting too.
Mhm. Why don't you share with us something that you are creating right now or working on that has you excited?
Okay, well, the thing that I'm doing, I've created a few videos just on how emerging leaders can leverage emotional intelligence to become,
Mhm.
a little
Mm.
bit better, to excel. But right now, and I don't know if you've experienced this either. I'm kind of curious, is that I've noticed people, or new leaders especially, are having trouble with constructive criticism for their employees, or leading those difficult conversations. Sometimes it comes off too strong, or sometimes leaders are, don't want, like, it goes back to you saying they want it to be easy.
Mhm.
So they just brush it off, like, oh, it's fine. Yeah, I know you won't make that same mistake again. So I'm starting a small workbook for a new leader in how to develop their skills in constructive criticism and leading difficult conversations.
Yeah, that is going to be very helpful because I do think it is the beginner leader who, well, I don't want to hurt their feelings. I don't want to
Yeah.
upset them. What if they
Mhm.
quit? And, the advice that I give in short is I'll usually say, this person is a friend or someone you care about, right? Yep,
Mhm.
this is someone I care about. Okay. So give them the feedback in a tone in which you are showing that you care for them as a friend and it's valuable feedback and feedback is a gift.
Mhm.
If you go with the intention of proving them wrong or pointing something out or criticizing, then that's the tone that's going to come out.
Yeah.
But if I really care about this person as a friend, then that's the tone that's going to come out.
Yes, you just stated exactly what that book I told you about teaches. It's that
Mhm.
relationship, knowing, when your employees know that you care about them, any kind of feedback you give them, they know it's coming from a good spot. So I
Mhm.
think you're right. That's completely key, is that caring relationship.
Yeah, and so I have your website up on the screen, and I'll make sure it gets in the show notes as well. What are some things that they're going to be finding on your website?
So just right now, it's pretty simple. I just talk about how I operate, some of the problems that my clients have when they come to see me, and then give you a list of what you hope to achieve by working with me. And then I talk about a few of the packages that I offer and a little bit about me, too. I know if you want to know more about me, feel free to email me about all my credentials, all of that. But I really want my website to speak to you guys too. So if it sounds good, you think we would work good together, read through that. But if not, I say match is key. Find yourself another coach that you feel that you would work well with, because that relationship is key. And then I've got some access to my videos, and I will be plugging in that freebie for that workbook coming up shortly.
Awesome. I love that. And we can teach people to be resourceful. And still, I feel like once they're resourceful, they still need a mentor or a guide or a coach in some way. I mean, even as a coach, I have a coach. I think we always have to have somebody that holds us accountable, or someone that we can bounce those ideas off of. I mean, it's women supporting women, basically.
Yeah, I couldn't have done it without my copywriting, my marketing coach. If I hadn't utilized those people myself, it's like I would be lost.
Yeah. Yeah. And so many people are trying to do it on their own behind the scenes. They're saying, well, I can do this side hustle. I love that you have something on the side for extra income. Let's make sure you're not wasting your time.
And money.
Yeah. Get yourself someone who can help. Awesome.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much. I've had you on hot seat now for 20 minutes, but I want to appreciate your time coming on here to share with the community and the audience as well. I love what you're doing out there. It's near and dear to my heart, and especially in the health field. I think that is a necessary thing, and I appreciate that you are doing that. If you guys would like to get to know Myriah more, obviously, again, I've got her website up here. Plus, I'm going to have it in the show notes for us as well. And then when that workbook comes out, I know that's going to make an impact on people. So that's exciting.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being on today. Thank you guys for being part of this episode. You know that if you want more conversations like this, you can find us on YouTube, follow the podcast, and also in the Female Leader Headquarters on Facebook. And we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks again, Myriah.
Awesome. Bye, guys.